So today we are going to discuss our last session of unit 1. It is about conduction in semiconductors. Now see what all things we are going to discuss in this. Electrical conductivity in semiconductors, or in solids we can say. Electrical conductivity, how, on which factors it depends. So it depends on two factors. First is energy bands in solids, and second is band structure and conductivity. So these two things we will be studying under this. Now semiconductors. So semiconductors are of how many types? This also we will be discussing. First is intrinsic semiconductors and second is doped semiconductors. Now doped semiconductors are of two types, n-type semiconductors and p-type semiconductors. So there are these four main things which we are going to discuss in this session. Now first of all, energy bands in solids. So what do we mean by bands, energy bands? You might be remembering molecular orbital theory in 11th standard which you studied. So there were sigma 1s, sigma star 1s, sigma 2s, sigma star 2s, sigma 2pz, pi 2px, pi 2py, sigma star 2pz, pi star 2px, pi star 2py. So such molecular orbitals were there which we used to draw by diatomic molecules. So in that, what we found, there were some filled orbitals and some were vacant orbitals. Now those orbitals form bands. Now how they form bands? Now we will be dealing with, we will say two things. One is valence band and another is conduction band. So what is valence band? Valence band will be the outermost highest band filled with the electrons. So there we can divide all the orbitals in two categories, filled one and vacant one, okay, or partially filled one. So valence band will be from the filled ones. So outermost highest band with filled electrons, that will be termed as valence band. Similarly, that particular orbital which comes next to this, okay, next to valence band, which may be emptied, which may be partially filled, that is called conduction band. Now whatever is the difference in energies of the valence band and conduction band, whatever is the gap, that gap is called forbidden band. That is called forbidden band. So three things we have to remember: valence band, conduction band and forbidden band, or we say it is forbidden gap. Now see, when electrons have to jump from valence band to conduction band, then what is required? Then energy is required, okay. So where they can jump and where they cannot jump, this we can understand from the diagram. Now see this diagram, one is blue with blue color and another is vacant one. There is no color filled in that. Now in metals there are two possibilities. First is when this blue one represents your valence band, whereas empty one represents your conduction band, okay. Now in case of metal there are two possibilities. First is they lie just one after the other. Partially filled band means just one after the other they are lying. Second possibility is they are overlapping each other. Now if this is the case, then there is no forbidden gap, so electron can jump easily in both the cases. So conduction is easier, so conduction can happen easily. Now if we go to insulators, then there is large energy gap between valence band and conduction band. So because of this forbidden zone, conduction becomes difficult. Electrons cannot jump easily from valence band to conduction band. If we come to semiconductors, then what happens? There is small energy gap between our valence band and conduction band. So with little energy they can easily jump. So conduction is possible in semiconductors. Now on the basis of this band theory, we can divide our solids in three categories. First, insulators. Now second is semiconductors, and third is conductors. Now in insulators, the gap which is called forbidden gap or forbidden region, okay, that gap is very wide. It may have energy from 3 to 6 electron volts. In case of semiconductors, gap is small. It may vary from 0.1 to 1 electron volt. And in case of conductors, valence band is only partially filled, or the next, or they lie one after the other. Okay, so this is on the basis of that diagram. Now semiconductors. Intrinsic semiconductors means pure form of any semiconductor, pure form, just like silicon and germanium. If we take silicon and germanium in their pure form, then they will be termed as intrinsic semiconductors. Okay, now if we take such conductors, then their conduction is small. They conduct, but their conductivity value is low. In order to increase their conductance, their conduction, what we do, we add some impurity. Impurity is a term which is applied for foreign substance. So we will be adding some foreign substance. With the addition of that foreign substance, its conductivity will increase. So this process of addition of a foreign substance in a pure solid is called doping. Okay, now when we are doing doping, it can be done in two ways. Either we can add electron rich substance, or we can add electron deficient substance. Now suppose we are adding electron rich substance. Okay, then what is going to happen? Now see, if we take silicon or germanium, then they belong to group 14. Group 14 means they will be having 4 valence electrons. Now if we add such impurity, such substance which is having more than 4 valence electrons, then what will happen? They will replace the atom and one or more electron will be extra. So because of this extra electron, negative charge will be more, so we say such semiconductor is called N type of semiconductor. Similarly, if we talk about electron deficient impurities, or we say electron such impurity in which number of valence electrons are less than the element or than the solid in which they are to be added, then what will be happening? If we are taking group 14 element in which we are adding group 13 impurity, then requirement is of 4 electrons, but we are giving such element in which there are only 3 electrons. So what is going to happen? There will be lack of 1 electron. So that place where electron is less, there will be development of hole. It means there will be more positive charge. So such type of semiconductors will be termed as P type semiconductors. Now from this diagram you can well check. First, A shows silicon atom where each element has 4 electrons and they are properly shared. Now if we add arsenic impurity, which is electron rich, then 1 electron will be there extra. So that will be mobile electron and it will increase the conduction. Okay. Similarly, if we add group 13 impurity, then there will be lack of electron, there will be formation of hole, and holes and electrons both are responsible for conduction, but because of lack of electron, it will be termed as P type. Now last topic is magnetic properties of solids. Okay, now see from the diagram you can see that electron moves around in 2 ways. Okay, it moves around its own axis also, and it moves around the nucleus also. So because of electrons 2 types of motions, what happens? That there is development of magnetic moments. It is just like you have learnt dipole moment. Dipole moment exists for polar molecules. Similarly, each electron behaves as tiny magnet. And why it behaves as tiny magnet? Because of these two types of motions. Now because of this there is development of magnetic moments. Now how these magnetic moments align? On the basis of this, solids can be divided into 5 categories. Now very first is paramagnetic substances or paramagnetism. Now paramagnetic substances are those which are weakly attracted by a magnetic field. They are magnetized in a magnetic field in the same direction. They lose their magnetism in the absence of magnetic field. So you can remember these examples also: O2, Cu2 positive, Fe3 positive, Cr3 positive. They are examples of paramagnetic substances. Similarly, diamagnetic is opposite of paramagnetic. Now diamagnetic substances are weakly repelled by a magnetic field, just like H2O, NaCl, C6H6. They are examples of diamagnetic substances. They are weakly magnetized in a magnetic field in opposite direction. Okay, now let us come to third type. Third is ferromagnetic substances. Ferromagnetic. Now there are few substances like iron, cobalt, nickel, gadolinium or CrO2. They are attracted very strongly by the magnetic field. If a substance is attracted very strongly by a magnetic field, then such substance is called ferromagnetic substance. Okay, now besides strong attractions, these substances can be permanently magnetized. Okay, so in solid state, the metal ions of ferromagnetic substances, they are grouped together into small regions. Those small regions are called domains. Now each domain acts as a tiny magnet. Now how these domains are arranged, that will decide the type of magnetic behavior of the substance. Now if we talk about fourth one, anti-ferromagnetic substances, then they are just opposite to ferromagnetic substances. Okay, in case of ferromagnetic substances, there is some value of magnetic moments. There will be definite value of magnetic moments, but in case of anti-ferromagnetic substances, they will cancel each other. Magnetic moments will cancel each other and there will be no net magnetic moment. Now if we talk about last, ferrimagnetism, then ferrimagnetism is observed when the magnetic moments of the domains in the substance are aligned in parallel and anti-parallel directions in unequal number. In unequal number means there will be some definite value of magnetic moment, but that value will not be very high. From the diagram you can make it clear. First, A represents ferromagnetic, where all the domains, all the magnetic moments are in one direction, so there is higher value of magnetic moment. If we talk about anti-ferromagnetism, then they are equal in number and in opposite directions, so net value is 0. If we talk about ferrimagnetic, then they are in opposite directions but unequal in number, so there will be definite value of magnetic moment. So this clears our first unit. Now you have to go through this all, and these are the home assignments for you. Okay, thank you.